It's beginning to look a lot like Jimmy's Design Channel. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Jimmy. So today I'm going to be going over some of the tools that we need as industrial designers. So I got myself some categories. I got sketching, prototyping, my other category which is not fully developed. I got services, and of course your guys' favorite, computers and programs. I sat down for about an hour to 2 hours trying to figure out all the things that I had to buy as an industrial design student. So when we first started class, they would always give us like a syllabus sheet of paper that pretty much told us everything that we needed for the class and everything that we had to buy. And it was a lot, guys. It's a 5-year program, 4 to 5 classes every semester. So I had a ton of stuff at the end of when I finished graduating, and I literally thought to myself, I had to get rid of all this stuff because I wasn't going to need it. And that's my recommendation to you guys, is they're going to make you buy a lot of crap, guys, and you're going to use a lot of it. You're going to use a lot of it so much to the point where you think you need this in your life until you graduate, and then you're gonna not really use it as much as you thought you would. So try not to spend too much money on all this stuff. You know, I kind of got out of hand and I bought a ton of like folders and sketchbooks and portfolio books and like markers, and then later I just didn't really need it anymore. So let's go through it right here. Okay, so in my sketching category, of course, I have pens, pencils, erasers, sharpeners. To get more specific, I got ballpoint pens, which are my favorite kind of pens, like the big pens. Technical pens, which are like markery kind of pens, and they come in different thicknesses. And then we got Prisma pencils, which are essentially color pencils for designers. T-squares, drawing table or drawing board, drawing triangles, measuring scale, paper of all sorts. So I remember buying pads of paper, tons of sketchbooks, vellum, Canson paper, and this is of all weights and sizes. You're gonna buy a lot of paper, guys. So then we have markers, those rendering manual markers that you'll see. You know, Copics are one of the very most popular brands out there. I would say they are the best. They don't smell as intense as other type of brands. They look nice. They have a very nice sleek design to them. You could find them practically almost anywhere. They're made by Japan, so they're really good. And you could actually refill some of them. So if you run out of ink, you could buy the ink and just refill it. You could change out the tips and stuff like that once they get old. Like I bought a ton of them, and each marker itself is like $4 to $6 depending on where you go. So it's kind of pricey. Okay, so what else do I have here? I got a compass, spray mount, which is essentially kind of like hairspray that you spray on the foam core and you mount your drawings. You have pins and clips, which are very important. These are going to be when you present your homework, you bring it into class, you want to show your whole class and your professors. So what designers do is they pin it to the board, and that's the best way to view them, is to have them up on the wall and everybody can, you know, have distance between them and the drawing. We got portfolio books, which I told you guys I spent a ton of money on. So these are like Pokemon card books where you put your little Pokemon cards in those little clear pockets. That's kind of like that, but instead of putting Pokemon cards in, you put your drawings and your printouts and all that stuff. Of course, sketchbooks and notebooks of all shapes and sizes, Design Life sketchbooks. You buy a sketchbook and you're gonna really like it, right? It's gonna have a really cool cover on it. You know, oh, this is so nice. It has a leather front, or it has a moleskin, and then you're gonna be like, oh, well, this is a little bit too big. I'm gonna need to wanna buy one that I could fit in my little back pocket or my purse, and then take it around with me just in case I need to write down some notes or draw something. Sketchbooks are gonna be a major thing. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of my sketching category, but it keeps going, guys. You know, sketching is a huge one, but an even bigger one is the prototyping situation, because prototyping is all about like making stuff. So don't think prototyping some special word. It's really just making stuff, making mock-ups, making stuff out of clay, making stuff so that you can help visualize your idea. Prototyping, you're gonna have to buy a lot of stuff. I remember that's the most stuff I had, is prototyping stuff. The most popular materials that industrial designers use are wood, glass, foam, clay, acrylic, and wire. And the type of woods that we use, it could be really cheap, like plywood, and then we could use a little bit more nicer woods if you're working on a more like furniture type of piece. And so it could be maple wood, walnut, zebra wood, and beech wood. Vinyl wraps, which are really cool. It's essentially just like when you want to change the color of your car, you have this giant sheet of sticker with a really cool color or pattern on it, and then you could just wrap the surface of your car. But you can also use this stuff on your models too. So I use that a lot, not really for just like hard colors, like just a blue or a black. I would really use it when it came to patterns. So like carbon fiber or chrome kind of finish, that's what I would end up using wrap for. And then of course Bondo. Bondo is essentially like putty that you help use to fill in any holes or anything. So if you're shaping foam and you cut off a little bit too much, you'll actually use Bondo, fill in that area that you cut off, and then sand it, and then it'll kind of fill it all in for you. They use it in like fenders and stuff like that. So if a fender has a giant dent in it, they would try to hammer it out, put Bondo over it, and then sand it so that it's nice and smooth, paint over it, and it'll look like a brand new surface. Okay, then you got tape of all types of shapes and sizes. One of the most popular tapes that industrial designers use all the time is double-sided tape, and it's not the regular type of double-sided tape that you'll find like at Target or Walmart or something like that. This is like legit double-sided tape. Random products which you're gonna buy. So let's say you were designing like a toy car. You know, a lot of the times you won't create everything. You're not going to 3D print everything. Sometimes you're going to buy like a toy car, and then you're going to part it out. You're going to take some of the parts off of it and use it for your own prototype. So this is not just have to do with cars, you know, it could also do with like a shaver or some kind of electronic, and then gut it out and then use certain parts of it. You're going to use electronics. A lot of the times industrial designers will add like LEDs, stuff like Arduinos and program them, or Raspberry Pis. You're going to have to buy a ton of different tools. Luckily, my school, they had us check out tools, so we didn't have to buy a lot of tools like power tools and stuff like that. But there's certain tools where you're going to have to buy yourself. And so cutters, rags, scrapers, glue, knives like X-Acto knives, box cutters, Olfa blades. Olfa blades are one of my favorite tools. You got wood stains and oils to seal your wood, spray gun, airbrushes, and canned paint. I had all of these, guys. Don't just think you buy one. Like, I had 3 different spray guns for primer, paint, and clear coat, because you don't want to mix all that stuff and you're gonna have primer in your paint. It's gonna be like really gross. So I had like 3 different spray guns. I had an airbrush, which are for more of the smaller, finer kind of details for painting, and then also canned paint. So the canned paint that I really liked using was Tamiya paint, because it's specializing in painting like car models and stuff like that, so it turned out really good. They're kind of pricey though too. They're these little tiny cans, but each one is like about $7 to $10 depending on where you go, so it's pretty expensive, and you end up buying a lot of those as well. And they don't last very long, so you gotta buy multiple of them, especially depending on how large the part that you're painting is. Lights, light bulbs, light strips, LEDs, I see that used all the time. Sandpaper of all sorts, anywhere from 60 grit, 50 grit, all the way up into like 2000 grit for wet sanding and polishing. All kinds of board, so I'm talking about like mat board, foam core, mechanical hardware such as magnets, nuts, bolts, offsets, screws, and detents. Okay, then you got primer, paints, clear coats, polish, compound, acetone, acetone and alcohol, rulers and calipers. Calipers are one of my favorite industrial design tools that I still use every single day as a professional. I would recommend, you know, buying yourself a nice pair of calipers, because I think that that's one of the main tools that industrial designers will use quite often. As a student or professional. You have mini files, another good one, and a cutting mat, because you don't want to be messing up your tables and whatnot cutting directly on a table, so you want to buy a nice cutting mat. It doesn't have to be too big, but one that's a decent size, so you don't have to have multiple, just have one that's a decent size that fits most situations. Okay, so I'm moving on now to my other category. So I got my inkjet printer, is something that I used for a while, but then it started just getting too much of a hassle, because inkjet printers, you know, you got to buy these like 7 different cartridges, and if one runs out, you can't use it, and so you got to like either force print something, or it's just not going to turn out right. And each cartridge set is like $100, so I ended up getting rid of it. And I just thought, like, if I need to print anything nice, I'm just going to go out and get it done through a service. What I did end up investing in as a professional is actually just a black and white laser printer, and if you only select ones that are black and white, you could actually save a lot of money, and it'll actually print continuously for a long time before you even ever have to change any cartridge. If you just need to print something real quick, or it's just gonna be a document, I recommend buying something over that and then just going out to print if you have to print like any photos or high quality kind of stuff. Okay, so I got photo paper, camera, phone, lenses, tripods, microphone, so anything that will help you create any video type of content, because there's probably going to be a class that will make you create some kind of video for your projects and your ideas, and so you're going to need some sort of a camera, or just use your phone, camera, lenses, tripods, depending on how far you want to go with it. And then I have how-to books and any kind of outside classes. So a lot of the students, they ended up taking some classes outside of Cal State Long Beach. Art Center had these programs where you could take individual classes at night, and essentially they would just teach you a specific thing like rendering or designing cars and stuff like that. So students would take that not necessarily for getting a degree, but just for the knowledge itself. Now moving on to services. So you're going to be using a lot of different services as a designer, and some of them are going to be like printing. So we're going to be printing stuff of all different sizes. You're probably used to just printing regular like 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, but with design, you're going to be designing and printing stuff like 11 by 17. You're going to be printing out giant boards, and so you're going to need some printing services to help you out with that. Business cards, books, portfolio constructions. I see a lot of students, instead of just putting their sheets and their work into those portfolio books that I told you about earlier with the Pokemon cards, what they're going to do is actually get their book constructed and buy a service, and it's going to look like a real legit book with a binding and a hardcover and all that good stuff. I would say don't do that. Like I see students that did do that, and what ends up happening is that you keep getting better over the years. If you create such a nice book, and like when you look back 5 years later, you're going to look at all this work and be like, oh, this is so, like, I don't even want to show this. This is very embarrassing. And then you thought it was so good at the time that you spent all this money to construct this book, and you end up not even needing it ever and not even wanting to show anybody, because you get so much better the more you keep designing over the next couple years. Don't spend too much money on even your schoolwork. Like I look back now and I'm like, oh, like the only things I really like showing are like one project from my junior year and then my senior year. I've gotten so much better ever since I graduated, so I don't even really like showing some of my old work anymore. Laser, plasma, water jet cuttings. Industrial designers, we like using acrylic. So acrylic are like giant sheets of plastic essentially, and they can come in all different kind of colors, materials, finishes, and what you use to cut it is a laser cutter. Or if you're cutting metal, it's going to be a plasma cutter or a water jet cut. You're probably going to end up using some kind of a cutting service throughout your schooling years. And then we have CNC machining if you want to do anything special with metals or wood. And then we have 3D printing services, which there are services where you can go to like mom and pop shops. And then you could also do it, I think, free depending on certain places, like at the Long Beach Library. They actually have a 3D printer that you could print anything for free. The quality is obviously not that good. Or you could go online. Shapeways will allow you to upload a file, get immediate quote, and then it's shipped to you. It's a pretty good service. What they use is, I think it's an SLA type of technology, 3D printing, where it uses more of like a powder instead of a resin or a plastic filament material. And so it turns out pretty freaking clean. Dropbox, Google Drive, or OneDrive, stuff that you're gonna need to upload, share files with people. I've realized that some students, they end up paying because it's so much nicer to be able to upload endlessly onto a cloud service of some sort and to save all your stuff and to share and whatnot. Now is the big one, guys. The big one is programs. AutoCAD, which not really used too much. I remember learning about AutoCAD just to learn the specific views, got front view, side view, orthographic views, just stuff like that, like very basic design views, engineering views. I've seen designers use Rhino, which I don't know, people always say it in the comments like, what about Rhino, Jimmy? But it's like, I use Rhino for a little bit. I always see designers say they use Rhino, but I've never seen anybody use it committingly, like 100%. This is the program to use. Like, people only use Rhino just as an experiment or just for fun, and I'm pretty sure you're different. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get in the comments that somebody says Rhino's the best. But the number one program is something similar to SolidWorks or like Pro-E, depending on where you live. And they're pretty much essentially the same program. This is the program that engineers, mechanical engineers use as well. So it's great to use the same program so you guys can work interchangeably back and forth using the same files, same programs. SolidWorks is great for manufacturing as well. It's very refined. It's hard to make like very organic shapes with it, you can for sure. It's just more difficult than, say, something like some kind of a modeling type of, like a character modeling type of 3D app. But it's a great program. That's the standard program that industrial designers use. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the staple programs. Okay, so SolidWorks is one of them. It's a 3D program. Then you got Keyshot, which is the rendering program, very staple program right there. Photoshop, which is for sure. Illustrator, and InDesign. So we prefer either one of these three: Photoshop, Illustrator, or InDesign. And I found that industrial design, we just love picking one. And so I've seen some designers do like two, you know, but we always have one that we can do pretty much everything with and master really, really well. So mine personally is Photoshop. And then we have Premiere and Final Cut, which is editing program. So if you have to make a video or anything like that, you got to use some kind of program to edit all the clips together. And so Premiere on Windows, it could also be on Mac, but then Final Cut is only on Mac, and that's a good program. That's the one that I use to create this video here. Okay, then we have PowerPoint. So I know a lot of you guys will probably laugh at PowerPoint thinking it's all old and outdated, but when you get to be a professional, PowerPoint is the presentation program that essentially business people use, and other marketing teams, product manager teams, they just love using PowerPoint. And so that's what I ended up having to use quite often nowadays, is PowerPoint instead of PDF, because PowerPoint you can go ahead and edit it, take images out of it. I'm pretty sure you could do that with PDF, but it's just much harder, and you got to download other programs, and you got to get an Acrobat. SketchUp, which is a fun program. It's a free 3D program. You'll probably use that for one or two projects, but it's not going to be a staple program. And then, of course, you have Word or Google Docs. This is, like writing any scripts, writing down notes, I don't know. But you end up using Google Docs, some kind of a Word program sometimes. Okay, so now moving on to PCs. So I'm not going to be talking about, like processors and graphics cards, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of all that stuff, but for the type of computers that I've seen industrial designers use, it's going to be stuff like they use a personal computer at home, so some kind of a tower desktop. And this is going to be our main machine for heavy duty stuff like complex rendering, complex modeling. This is going to be our powerhouse. And then I always see industrial designers have a complementary computer, which is a laptop, which they can take around, go to client meetings, just be more mobile and portable. Usually I see designers have both things. I only use a laptop. It worked fine for me. And especially as a professional now, all that stuff is provided for me by my work. So I have a desktop tower, which is very powerful. We have a network render, so I'll send all my renderings to the network rendering. Super crazy powerful machine that renders incredibly high quality renderings. I've seen designers use stuff like tablets, computers like Surfaces, and those work really well because you can draw directly on them. And I've just seen some designers use them, but personally not my thing. I like just drawing directly on pen and paper. I'm a very old school type of person that way. And then iPads, it's definitely a common one. Those drawing tablets nowadays, I feel like they're outdated and you don't need to buy them anymore. Like the ones that are just like a big mouse pad with a pen, don't get that. I have that. I don't really use it that much. I spent like $150 on it, and it's just a paperweight. It doesn't even work well as a paperweight either. But I would say don't get it. Just get like an iPad Pro or something like that, because if you don't use it for the drawing capabilities, at least you could just use it for a content consumption machine. Mouse pads, card readers, and dongles. Let's see, case, backpack, skins, screen protectors, hard drives, flash drives. Okay, that is about it, guys. I think I said everything I wanted to say. My name is Jimmy. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe. Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, see you in the next video, guys. Peace.